Welcome to the Enterprise Thought Leadership Podcast, where we explore the latest in enterprise trends, tech, and strategy with the top leaders shaping the future.
Hi, I'm Kanika, and I'm the managing editor of Top MarTech, which is our marketing strategies and CMOs focused publication. We have engaging conversations with global thought leaders and industry experts, which reach over 1.3 million business leaders worldwide. With the high proliferation of AI, we need to understand how enterprises can scale AI without sacrificing trust or brand integrity. A new AI native startup, which is called Markup AI, will be working on safeguarding brand voice and compliance in the era of AI generated content. It is pioneering Content Guardian Agents, an AI tool which is designed specifically to monitor and review AI generated marketing content. We're speaking with Matt Blumberg, he's the CEO of Markup AI, to today discuss the safeguarding brand voice and compliance in the era of AI generated content. Like I just said, it's a startup, so this is an innovative technology, and it's a great pleasure to have you here with us today, Matt. I'm sure a lot of very interesting ideas and concepts will be discussed today.
Well,
Welcome to
thanks.
the
Nice to meet you. I appreciate you having me on.
Oh, it's a pleasure. So, Matt has more than 30 years of leadership in scaling global disruptive technology businesses. He's passionate about the power of language, being precise with it, using it to move people, and ensuring brands maintain a consistent voice with it, which is actually my job. And he's equally passionate about the power of technology to change lives for the better. Before launching Markup AI, Matt successfully launched and led brands and companies. Additionally, he is a blogger and an author of 3 acclaimed books on startup leadership, startup CEO, startup CXO, and startup boards, further underscoring his expertise on commitment to innovation. Great to have you here, Matt.
Thank you. Great to talk to you.
Pleasure. So the first question I have for you is, your new tool is designed to monitor and review AI generated marketing content. What do you think is going to be the impact of this ability on a largely chat GPT led Marcom generation market, in which almost all the writers today, the younger generation, if I can call it that, is heavily addicted to AI tools for writing, especially for marketing. So
Well, hopefully, our product and the category that we're in is something that accelerates the adoption of generative AI to either write or help write all kinds of content, including marketing content. So the category that we are in is what we call Content Guardian Agent. And if you think about the concept of a guardian agent, as it's been defined by Gartner, it's an AI system that has been purpose-built to monitor and oversee other AI systems. And the reason guardian agents are important is that large language models, while incredibly powerful, are also imprecise. So as all of us know who use whatever the model is, it could be chat, it could be Anthropic and Claude, it could be Llama. The models, they're predictive by nature, so they're not going to be perfect. They make mistakes, they hallucinate. Sometimes they have a really hard time getting a particular concept or word correct. And what that means is that they're not quite ready, nor will they necessarily ever be ready to be left alone and unsupervised. So the Markup AI product, I think, starts the delineation of the shift from kind of phase 1 of enterprise AI to phase 2, where phase 1 was really about experimentation and kind of individual productivity boosts, right? Everyone kind of using their own model, which was, is very democratic and is very powerful, but has also created a lot of chaos in the world of enterprises and content. So what we think of phase 2 is sort of helping enterprises move from chaos to control. So Markup AI is really a governance layer that allows companies to harness the power of generative AI without the risks. So it allows them to move from kind of scattered individual use to a coordinated enterprise-wide content strategy, turning things like ChatGPT into a trusted enterprise product. So we see all the time with clients, and quite frankly, I see it in my own organization. I'm sure you do too. There's sort of this interesting dichotomy where there's a mandate from the top, right? Use AI, use AI, use AI, get with it, be more productive. And there's a hesitancy because sometimes what comes out of the other end of that isn't quite ready. So our new product at Markup AI does monitoring, scoring, and rewriting of corporate content to blend the power of the large language model with the guardrails and kind of deterministic rule set that companies need in order to scale AI with confidence.
So I have a quick question here since we are in the business of writing and we do not have the mandate of using ChatGPT at all. But Google does penalize content that is completely AI written, isn't it?
In terms of search?
Yeah.
Search results, I've heard different things about that. I'm not sure I can comment on that. But what I will say is that, large language models tend to sound the same.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of distinct
Right.
voice to them. And even if you put something into a prompt like, hey, use an informal tone, like even those all tend to sound the same.
Right.
So it wouldn't surprise me to learn that from a SEO perspective,
Yeah.
that LLM content somehow doesn't quite get as much juice. Although at the end of the day, SEO really has a lot more to do with clicks than it does, sort of pure content.
That is right. So then, why is it that brand and compliance teams can't afford to rely on generic AI output from LLMs? What makes
Well,
them less than, less than?
yeah, I mean, look, as I was saying, sort of LLM content all kind of sounds alike, right? So you can think of the LLM as a generalist, but think of your brand as a specialist. So a generalist that's trained on the public internet doesn't know your company's brand voice, your company's tone. It doesn't know your company's terminology. It doesn't know your company's legal disclaimers. Forgetting about the fact that LLMs can be inaccurate or have some hallucinations. So if you think about kind of the integrity of your brand, that is a really valuable asset. Every piece of content, whether it comes out of marketing or product or HR, every piece of content is a customer touch point. And customer touch points that end up being inconsistent or inaccurate or off brand or worse, that run afoul of some kind of compliance or regulation, can erode brand trust and brand equity with your customer base. So companies that really care about their brand can't afford to outsource their brand's voice to an algorithm that doesn't understand it. That's a little bit about how I think about, kind of not just relying on LLMs on their own to do the work.
Can they not be trained to perform, to pick up on the essence of the brand communication or the company's communication strategy or style or tonality? They can be trained, right?
They can be trained well, I mean, they can be prompted at a surface level. But that's very different from consistency at scale.
Right.
So, sure, you can put into a prompt, and please write this in a tone that's going to appeal to Gen Z consumers. But that's really different than, for example, our clients upload, as part of using our APIs in our system, they'll upload their terminology dictionaries. We have clients that have hundreds of thousands of entries in their terminology dictionary, hundreds of thousands. And there's no way that anything like that can fit into a context window or a prompt for a large language model. So again, what our system does is it blends the power of the large language models with the very specific and detailed guardrails that companies have. We have companies that use us who have brand guidelines that are 700 pages long or more to go with their complicated, patchwork of regulations that they have to comply with, which are going to be different in different jurisdictions. To go with brand voice, terminology, everything else. So it's too much to put into every prompt. You're starting to read these stories now where some company put in a 150-page prompt to get out a one-page document. That's not really an efficient way of using a large language model.
So then, obviously, the next question is if you the entire job of content guardian is to make sure that uh, the LLMs or the AI outputs are supervised and hence structured and hence a little more coherent and a little more comprehensive. Correct. So how does it act as a new safety layer across the MarTech stack, the entirety of the MarTech stack?
I mean, the way we've brought our product to market is that it principally exists as an API, and what that means is that for companies that have nobody has a MarTech stack that is one thing, right? When you talk about your MarTech stack, you're talking about many different systems across the company. You may be using, one thing for email, one thing for a CDP, one thing for, website publishing, a different thing for a content repository, something else that chatbots for customer success or customer service are drawing on. So it tends to be, companies tend to have a patchwork of systems. And even if all you had was one system, because we are an API first product, it's very easy to integrate into whatever workflow, whatever systems you have. That also helps companies standardize everything. So when the guardrails are standard, the inputs can be varied. And that means the outputs are standardized. So companies that use multiple large language models, that use multiple systems for things, using the same API from Markup AI, that kind of provides that consistent safety layer.
So one quick question, and this is just out of curiosity. What happens with organizations with some amount of legacy technology still lingering in their MarTech stack? How do you
Some
handle
amount of legacy technology?
legacy, old technologies, old
Old
hardware?
technology? Yeah, I mean, our API is pretty easy to integrate into everything. It's very well documented. It's very straightforward. There are, if for some reason it doesn't or can't integrate either on its own or through one of the no-code marketplaces like Zapier or N8N, those tend to do some of the kind of workflow automation around legacy systems. You can certainly use the API that we have, kind of on its own through a UI to check individual documents. Even companies that might have some legacy systems tend to have one of the same few content repositories as well. So you can check your content in lots of different places. You can check it when you're authoring it. You can also check it wherever it lives.
Could you share some early lessons from enterprise beta partners that have used this tool?
Yeah, I would say one thing that we've learned from some of our early users is what I would call this sort of concept of shadow AI. So a company might say, like, hey, everybody has to use this license of this model for their technology. And I think what companies are always surprised at is the concept of shadow AI, that it doesn't really matter if the company says everyone has to use X, people use whatever they use. Everyone has the free accounts to all these things. A lot of people have their own paid accounts to these things, and they sort of get in the habit of using whatever they use. So that's one thing that we've seen quite a bit. I would say another really important thing is the concept of human in the loop for AI content production, or really AI use of anything. So that's really the winning formula. And I would say one of the things that we've kind of made a hallmark of our application is that reviewing content for us comes with a score. And a lot of companies have started using our score as a way of triggering human in the loop review. So if you produce content that's scoring above 80 or above 90, human doesn't have to look at it. If your content is below a certain threshold, human does have to look at it. And that score can be applied flexibly across different levers and different agents. So human in the loop is kind of a second thing. And I would say the third is, what I would describe as a unique point of value about AI in general. So I think it's true of our solution, but it's true of other AI solutions. Like any paid software solution, you want to understand the ROI, like the traditional ROI metrics of using it. So, hey, this makes our writers this much more productive. It makes our lawyers this much more productive, editors, et cetera. But AI, when it's done correctly, lets you do things that one of my board members says categorizes them as the previously unimaginable. So you can imagine editing more and more new content, right? That's where you use ROI to think about it. But one of the things we're seeing is that clients can do things that were previously unimaginable. So for example, let's say someone from your marketing team goes into your brand book and updates a whole section of it. Let's say someone from your product team goes into your terminology dictionary and changes 50 terms or 100 terms. Hey, this is a product family that we're transitioning from this name into this name, or merging two different things. One of the things you can do with AI and with Markup AI's Content Guardian agents is you can push a button and instantly scan millions of your existing pages of content and automatically either flagging or correcting content based on changes to the dynamic standards that you have, where like you probably wouldn't have bothered doing that before. It was just too much. So those are a few of the things that our clients are starting to see with our system.
So another question, just out of curiosity, are there any other products like this in the market at this point in time?
The concept of the Guardian agent is a relatively new concept.
Okay.
I am sure there are, kind of pure startups out there that are thinking about Guardian agents from lots of perspectives. You can think about them for security, for data protection. Content is another one. There are certainly tools out there that will look at your content and try to improve content in some ways. We think our solution is a little bit unique, but you can think of it a little bit like you might think of Grammarly to check grammar and spelling. Our platform includes grammar and spelling checks as well. There are a couple of startups that are working on looking at content from a regulatory perspective, which is part of also sort of part of what we do. But I don't think it's a very well developed ecosystem yet. But I would expect I would keep an eye on it. I expect there's going to be a lot of activity here over the next few quarters and the next couple of years.
So one more question about the product. Why should somebody go for this particular Content Guardian agent?
I think companies that care about the quality of their brand and their content, and want to really lean into AI to make their marketing teams as productive as possible, this is going to be kind of an indispensable tool.
So that's your differentiator, so to speak.
Yeah.
And one last very generic question. What would you like to share some insights or ideas on how can enterprises scale AI without sacrificing trust or brand integrity?
I think probably the most important thing is that companies need to be well organized in terms of what I would say sort of what are their rules of the road. So not every company has a well-defined brand book or brand voice. Not every company has a terminology dictionary. And if you think about it, when a company has one person on the marketing team or 5 people on the marketing team that sit in a room together, you don't necessarily need to have those things well documented. But the bigger the organization gets, or the more diverse the sources of content creation are, it's really important to have kind of that single source of truth for how a company thinks about their content voice and quality. And then I would say that the second important thing, which we talked about a couple of minutes ago, is this concept of human in the loop. You can't outsource everything to a large language model. There must be some checkpoints for people to look at things, in addition to having systems that look at things.
So that's the end of my questions, and thank you so much for the time. Unless there's something else you would like to share about the product or about the concept.
No, I appreciate the conversation. We'd love people to try it. You can try it for free, create an account for free, use the API up to 100,000 tokens for free at Markup.ai.
Okay, that's great.
Thank you for joining us for the Enterprise Thought Leadership Podcast. Please do follow us on social media and subscribe for more ideas and insights. Until next time.